stop or give it up. Killing infidels, always got it planned. Underhand, give a lie a yell. Whoa! My Sharia. My Sharia.
And there it is, ladies and gentlemen, today on the 10th of July. All right, what are we doing back there? On the 10th, hey, Mark, got a little window on my clock there. I can't see it. On the 10th of July, 2015, Tom Trento, your host, Enemies of the State, name of the show. We don't have any enemies today. We have a bunch of friends that are going to be with us. To some of you out there, they may be considered enemies. Not to us. We love everybody around here. We may not like their ideology, but on this Jumpin' Juma Freaky Friday, when you got two Muslims to finally come on the show, how could you not believe there's an Allah floating around in the universe somewhere? And if Allah is with us today, let appear on our screen two of our dear friend Muslims, Isa Hodge and Kevin Barrett. Are they there? There they are.
There they are right there.
Kevin on screen left and Isa screen right. Hi guys, how you doing today on Jumpin' Juma Freaky Friday?
I'm doing good since we're jumping fast forward here, but I'm doing good.
Yeah, a little fast forward. Kevin, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, although I didn't understand the finally came on the show. I never heard of you or your show until 30 minutes ago when Isa called me.
Yeah, well, guess what? You'll never forget it after today, I'll tell you that. By the way,
well, you'd be surprised.
How was, what is it, lunchtime? You guys are in different time zones. Did you guys eat yet, or are we all cool here with?
Everybody's good with food here, yeah.
Do we need,
I had a good meal at 3:30 in the morning, so I'm still going.
Yeah, that's when I had my meal, was at 3:30 this morning.
Why'd you wait so late to eat?
Because it's the month of Ramadan, we're fasting.
Oh, you both are real live Muslims.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
yeah,
hey.
And you're a real live asshole.
Hey.
already coming right out.
That's all right.
No, that's the truth.
We're actually on AM radio.
That's okay.
That was a right cross right there.
Yeah.
Hey.
Well, I mean, people who kick a group when they're down after they've been malandered and slandered, maligned, slandered, and beat up, and you make your living by going after that group. You're just one sick fuck.
I'm sorry, we got to cut. We can't air that.
Yeah,
we're on AM radio, buddy.
Guys, this is the 7 words,
You're
guys.
a piece of shit. You're a human piece of shit.
Okay. Go ahead. Well, let's do this. Do you want to be on the show? You want to have a show or not? Because we're on commercial radio. We now have to beep you out. And I want you to share your thoughts with us. Are you as a PhD capable of doing that without using the 7 words that can't be used on the radio? If you're not, then say that and we'll take you off the show. We'll leave Isa on. If you think you're capable of doing that, you have to, sort of discipline yourself.
I don't really see any point in talking to a complete asshole like you, Tom. You're just a worthless bully piece of shit, making money by being a bigot, being a complete creep, picking on a group that's been grossly maligned over the past 10 years. I don't care whether I was a Muslim or not. I would tell you exactly the same thing. If you were running a show in Nazi Germany, talking about Jews drinking the blood of Christian babies, it'd be exactly the same thing that you're doing now. So you're a criminal against humanity, a piece of utter human scum. You are the lowest of the low. You are such a worthless, low-down scumbag and piece of shit that I don't have the slightest interest in ever talking to you again.
You learned that as a
PhD?
I don't know if. Let me ask the director first. Could we bleep that stuff out? I mean, or is he just going too far?
I've recorded it, and I'm going to put it out there.
Well, yeah, you can put out whatever you want. We have to follow laws of
FCC and all.
We actually have an AM radio show.
And look, I don't mind. We're free speech advocates. I mean, we were in Garland, Texas, came under attack by the Islamic State. We were there with Pamela Geller, and people
came
tried
under
to shoot
attack by the Israeli secret intelligence service.
Okay.
There you go.
There we go.
Let's
Right
just
on
go
the
with the
bat.
show. I don't care if it takes all night to edit this, to edit out his potty mouth. Let's keep Dr. Potty Mouth on. He's so
Keep
good.
Dr. Potty Mouth on. That's
We're
right.
going to try, Isa,
Yeah.
Isa, we're going to try, because what we found on our show, When we got somebody like Kevin, we let him make our point. We let him speak. Now it's going to drive.
Well, you have to understand something. You know, I'm a bit more reserved than Kevin is, but that's by my choice. Believe me, I actually feel the same way about Islamophobes myself. Against anybody that's a bigot. I don't care if you're a bigot against homosexuals, if you're a bigot against Jews, if you're a bigot against blacks. Yeah, I think that they're the lowest scum on the earth. That they're the very reason why we have so many issues. And in fact, I don't see any difference between Islamophobes and ISIS. I don't see any difference between ISIS and ISIS. The only difference I see between, to be honest with you, the only difference I see is that you're not actually beheading people, but instead you're
that's just a small difference. That's just a little bit of a difference.
Just a slight difference.
There's a slight difference.
No, in actuality, what you're doing is, and Kevin is right about that, you actually are killing more people because of the lies and the misinformation that you spread. You cause more people to buy into this because the average American wants their opinions made for them. They actually don't want to do any real research on their own. So instead, they rely on you pulling out this book from Salafi, all right, this from Shafi, and you say that this is what
reliance. I think he's talking about reliance of the traveler.
Talk about your reliance of the traveler. The little quotes that you pulled from
the
there.
one that's codified, certified, and stamped by Al-Azhar University and everybody else.
Well, let them get themselves on the record.
By one school of thought. So, you know, the thing is that for me, I have a bit more tolerance to people like you simply because, you know, I mean, you're on my show as well. We're both on each other's show at the same time, just like we were on Tuesday. And I have more tolerance because I get to show my listeners, you know, what kind of people you guys really are. And unfortunately, you guys are paid way too much money.
Ton, you have no idea. Do you guys want to borrow any money?
All right. So
how about I send you £1 of hundreds as soon as the show's
that's our
over?
producer, Damon Rosen, who's a Jew. Kevin, what do you think about Jewish people? I have a Jewish producer.
Well, that doesn't surprise me because, let's face it, what's going on today is that the U.S. military has been hijacked by the Zionists, not just Jewish Zionists, but Christian Zionists as well.
Absolutely.
What we have going today is a war, a religious war, in which Zionists have invaded the heart of the Middle East and are destroying that region.
Which country was invaded?
Break up the region, according to the Oded Yinon plan, to balkanize the Middle East on behalf of Israel. And they've used the U.S. military to do it. You know, the U.S. has been robbed of trillions of dollars, according to a Christian Science Monitor article, by the state of Israel over the past 30,
Kevin,
40 years.
My question was,
and that money is now going to support the American troops who are, the U.S. military is doing Israel's job for it,
Kevin.
Murdering people.
Just mute him out for a minute.
At least...
we have to mute him out because you know, he's just filibustering. The question, if you want to answer it, and we can get into the Jews and Israel. My question to you, Kevin.
Are you cutting people's mics?
Yeah,
we do.
Fuck you.
We won't cut your neck, but we will cut your mic.
Okay.
The question to you. Answer the question.
He's gone.
He's gone.
He's done with his diatribe.
Yeah, he's you know, I mean.
Yeah, he's done with his diatribe.
He struck me as pretty professorial.
Yeah.
The question
Maybe could that have anything to do why he's banned from the University of Wisconsin?
The question I
No,
asked
actually,
him
he's banned
was,
from the University of Wisconsin simply because of the fact is that he actually posed to his students actual other possible scenarios that happened on 9/11. I mean, there's already engineers and architects for truth on 9/11 already disproving the government's story as it is. Whether or not it was 19 people that actually did 9/11 or whether it was Momen or neocons.
Isa, look, I obliged on your show, and I appreciate you coming on this show, but the question I asked him, and Tom Trento's the host, so I'd like you to answer the question, but I asked...
Oh, you didn't ask me. If you want to ask me, go ahead and ask me.
Well, I asked Kevin. Question was, I have a Jewish producer. What does he think of my Jewish producer? And he went off on his 9. The audience should know that Kevin Barrett, is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a truther. He's very big in the fact that it was an inside job and the Israelis did it and all this stuff that really nobody cares about except Kevin and maybe Isa. But I wanted him to be on the show, and he called me a bunch of names. But you know, at this stage of the game,
It doesn't matter.
We're used to all of that. That's not an issue because the next level of the show is going to be, all right, that's what you believe about me as a person. Let's look at what I believe, what we've put on the record. Let's analyze that based against your challenges or your critiques. Let's have an intelligent conversation and discussion. But people like him, and I've dealt with them, they're a dime a dozen. They want to spew off. They can't argue intellectually or academically or consistently. So they push the button and they get lost. You're still here.
That's credit.
What do you think, Issa, about the fact that I have a Jewish producer?
I personally don't have any problems with Jews. Neither does the religion of Islam. The issue that I have is with Zionists. There's a difference between Zionists and Jews. Jews are, as described in the Quran, people of the book, just as Christians are described as people of the book. They're not described as infidels. Only those who are polytheistic are considered infidels, those who worship more than one God. Jews, Christians, and Muslims worship one, a deity of one, not multiple. So, I myself have Jewish friends. I have I have fans that are Jewish that follow my show, follow my articles. They follow, everything. My own producer, as you mentioned, and
I said I wouldn't talk about him.
So, I mean, tolerance is there. So if I would tolerate somebody who has that lifestyle, but not a Jew, that makes absolutely no sense.
We're not going to talk about your producer, but
no. I'm just saying.
Okay.
You asked me.
Well, we're gonna dive into that for a second.
Question.
Tom Trento, your host, Enemies of the State, WSBR, commercial radio, where you can't say the word or the word as Kevin's been doing. We had to beep him quite a bit. We didn't cut him out, ladies and gentlemen. He couldn't take being on the same podium or whatever, same show with
For a
with
guy
us.
who didn't know who you were 30 minutes ago,
Yeah.
he had a whole lot
He's
of
an
opinion
unbalanced
for a guy
guy.
who just found out about
He's
you 30
unbalanced.
minutes ago.
But Kevin,
I'm
but
still
Issa,
here, guys.
Okay.
You
But
guys
Issa.
can spew on that all you want, but I'm still here.
I get
and
it.
I still have
Issa.
time that I've allotted for you.
We have a special guest, and he may differ with you on views of Jews. I'd like to cut to our special guest, Imam Abdullah Ful from Pakistan. He's an imam from Pakistan. Imam Abdullah, what do you think about the Jewish people?
Tom, I hate the Jews very much. In fact, they are the people of the book, and until they submit to Islam, I have no use for the filthy pigs.
But this man just said that he has Jewish friends. Now, is he talking anecdotally?
A Muslim cannot take a Jew as a friend. Everybody knows this.
Or a Christian from what?
Or a Christian. You cannot. A Muslim should only have a Muslim as a friend.
Is that in the Quran somewhere? You
Yes.
can't take a Jew or a Christian for a friend?
Yes, Tom.
Issa, how do you handle that verse where it says, do not have Jews or Christians for friends?
Well, how I handle that is, I mean, first off, you guys don't even have any factual statements. You guys just make.
We're going to show you the verse. We're going to show
show
you
you
the
the
verse.
Let's talk about kill those who are not Christian or Jewish. Exodus 22:20. You must kill those who worship another god. Or how about Deuteronomy 13:6-10? Kill any friends or family that worship a god that is different than your own. Let's go New Testament, shall we? Mark 6:11. And any city that doesn't receive the followers of Jesus will be destroyed in a manner even more savage than that of Sodom and Gomorrah. So you want to cherry pick the Quran and you want to sit there and say, oh, well, you can't have enemies or you can't have friends of any other faith. Well, let's cherry pick the Torah.
I'll be glad to do that. And when you have me back on your show, I'll answer any question you want. You're on my show now. I want you to answer.
Wait a minute. I did answer your question. I answered it by simply creating another statement saying
Surah 5,
that your statement is
Surah
wrong
5,
if you cherry pick.
verse 51. Can you bring it up, Mark? Surah 5:51.
Got it.
Now,
Yeah.
here's what we're going to do,
What does it say?
Issa. We're
What
going to
does it
look at
say
a
before
doctrinal
that?
point, because here's what a lot of people do with us. We critique Islamic doctrine. We all have Muslim friends. I got Muslim friends who are in the United States service. That's not the issue. We're critiquing the doctrines of Islam, the Quran, the Hadith, the Sunnah. And when you look in the Quran, chapter 5, verse 51, you got it up there? Somebody got it up?
Yes.
We're going to let the audience read it. I'll read it. And you who have believed, do not take the Jews and the Christians as allies. They are, in fact, allies of one another. And whoever is an ally to them among you, then indeed he is one of them. Indeed, Allah guides not the wrongdoing people. How do you explain the fact that a Muslim can have a Jew as a friend doctrinally in light of this very significant verse that has been used quite a bit by your side to say no friends with Jews or Christians? Anjem Chowdhury uses that verse to not be my friend.
Anjem Chowdhury is an idiot.
Well, how do you handle it, though?
Anjem
Issa
Chowdhury is a Muslim scholar.
Issa, how do you
He's
how
as
do you
much of a
interpret
Muslim
that verse?
scholar as my big toe. Listen, I handle it the same way. You take a verse out of context historically, as
Okay.
well as
Okay.
as far as how it is implemented in all the verses before it and after it.
Read
And it
them.
can mean anything
Tell me the
you want it to mean.
context. Tell me the context. That
just like-
changes the substantive meaning. What context changes the substantive meaning?
We have to understand when that verse was revealed. That verse was revealed at a time when the Muslims were in Medina, and
Okay.
the Meccans, who were the pagans, the infidels, who were trying to kill the Muslims from Mecca, and they had a city in Medina where Muslims and Jews and Christians and even some pagans lived peacefully. And what had happened was some Jews betrayed the Muslims for help from the Meccans, and it caused, which is just before the Battle of Badr. So this was talking about a specific period. This was talking about a specific time, because the Jews in Medina betrayed not just the Muslims of Medina, but the other Jews of Medina, the other Christians of Medina, the other faiths of Medina, at a time of war
Okay.
when 10,000 Meccans were coming down upon the Muslims.
All right, so
So
what
this
you're
is the
saying
whole
is a very important
historical
point.
context.
That's a very important point, actually.
Yeah, very important point at 4:22, 22 minutes after on a Jumpin' Juma Freaky Friday. Our special guest, Issa Hodge from, you're in the Midwest someplace, right? I think in the Midwest.
Yes.
In the Midwest, he has a radio show on Tuesday evenings. This past Tuesday, a few days ago, I was his guest on his show with Cal and a couple of other people, and he has graciously agreed to come on our show today on Friday. And getting past all the emotion and the bluster, we're starting to dig down. And we're doing that right now, ladies and gentlemen, on WSBR, 740 AM on your dial. Thank you for listening. And we're also on redstatetalkradio.com, midnights, East Coast time for all of you midnight wide awake people, theunitedwest.org, teapartycommunity.org to watch the show. And if you follow the show, we play around a little bit, but we are very skilled talented people at deconstructing Islamic doctrine. We asked him a question on 551, where the verse in the Quran says, don't take Jews or Christians for friends. He gave us what in the textual criticism, and I'm a student of textual criticism, having studied that in graduate school. It's a conditioned verse, culturally conditioned verse. Issa's saying, Tom, that verse is culturally conditioned. It's conditioned and only applicable for a very short period of time. And that's the time in the Medina phase after Mecca, the Medina phase. And then at some point later, it changed. And let me ask you, I don't want to explain Islamic doctrine to you. At what point did the substance of that verse, don't take Jews or Christians for friends, change? And what verses abrogated that said now Jews and Christians can be your friends? Where do we find that in the Quran?
Well, you find it all over the Quran. I mean, in Surah Baqarah, it's the cow, one of the largest surahs in there, time and time again.
That's
There's
before.
one very specific
Why
verse.
don't you give me the verse?
Oh, I have to look it up. It's Surah 5. I'll have to find it. It says, "Do not." I'll pull up the verse. now
Okay,
for
I'll give
but
you
it
time
says,
to
"Do
pull it
not,"
up and you can
it says,
talk.
"Do not be arrogant, for I have chosen to send this message to you in your language. For this message is for all of mankind, and I am the best of judges. And there will be Christians and Jews in heaven."
But that was before, right? That was a
Before
verse
what?
that was before that period. So, but this,
Abrogation.
It wasn't in there because when Muhammad,
talk about
peace and
abrogation
blessings of
here.
God be upon him, was in Medina, he wrote a letter to all the Christian. He wrote a letter to all the Christians saying that their churches would be safe, that their covenants with them would be safe, that there would be no forced conversions. He wrote a letter that was sent out to all the Christian kingdoms
so-
at that time. In fact, even his cousin Ali, who, when they split and left from Mecca to Medina, his cousin Ali went to the Abyssinian Empire, which was a Christian kingdom, and they made a pact with them.
All right, well,
was
let's
peacefully there.
cut through this because some of this stuff can get a little
in the weeds, yeah.
in the weeds
Yeah, a
for the
little bit.
audience. But we'll take it that your position, Issa Hodge's position, is simply that 551, the classic verse used by many people, has been changed. Allah changed it, and now Muslims should welcome Jews and Christians, into their home. Let's take a look at the Ramadan Bombathon for a second.
Okay.
Let's get an update. We do an update every Friday on Ramadan Bombathon. A couple of websites, Issa, follow the bombing that's taking place in the Islamic world, and how Muslims are bombing Muslims, bombing Christians, bombing Jews, bombing whoever. Mark, give us an update on Ramadan
It's not just
bombing.
bombings.
Well,
Well,
on day
Abdullah,
22.
Abdullah, why don't you give us the update?
Go ahead.
Yes, day 22, Ramadan Bombathon in the name of the religion of peace, Islam, 221 terror attacks, 45 suicide bombing, 2,177 dead bodies, and 2,655 wounded.
Now,
Now,
Issa,
do you
here's
guys
the problem.
also mention in this Ramadan Bombathon about how many Muslims are killed
Well,
by
that's mainly
American
Muslims.
bombs and
It is
drones? You guys
primarily
bother mentioning
Muslims
that?
dead.
That's what I said. But here's the problem.
Purification.
We
No,
like.
I asked
Oh
the
no,
question.
I don't. I think he's asking a different question. You're asking
asked-
how? Yeah, you're asking the question how many Americans were killed during that time.
No,
Is that what you're asking?
No, I
Muslims,
asked how
Muslims.
many Muslims have been killed by American bombs.
Oh, you're talking about the
you guys
war.
bother to mention that as well, because it's not just a one-sided thing. You know, I mean, granted, you do bring up a very good point.
But that's
I mean,
not in the name of any
ironically,
religion.
ISIS is who you guys think Muslims are, but yet 98% of the people they kill are Muslim.
Here's the very,
Okay,
very
now-
important. The very important point, Issa. We're
this is an important point,
critiquing
too.
the doctrine of Islam. And our thesis on today's show at 27 After with Issa Hodge, a Muslim, our thesis is that Islam inherently is destructive because of its doctrine. Are there individuals like you that try to paper over that and change it and make it a more benign faith? Of course there are. And thank you very much for trying to do that. But Al-Azhar,
absolutely-
Al-Azhar University in Cairo, are you a Sunni or a Shia Muslim, by the way?
I am actually what the very last message that the Prophet left for us. He said, do not lean too far to the right or too far to the left. Do
Okay.
not be divided amongst
What
yourselves.
the hell
You are
is
one
this man
ummah.
talking about?
You are a Muslim.
Well, in terms of
They say
eschatology,
Sunni, listen,
in
Sunni,
terms
Shia,
of eschatology,
Alawite, all these are man-made names that have come about that in order to divide and conquer. No different than a Presbyterian or or a Nazarene, or I mean all the different denominational names that you can give yourself as a Christian.
And what
So I'm
school of
just a
thought is
Muslim.
this from?
yeah, where does this come from? I mean,
Yeah.
we've never heard of.
I just told you the very last sermon, the very last speech that the Prophet gave before he died. He said, "Do not."
which is
be
very
divided amongst
questionable. You didn't mention that. That's an extremely questionable piece of literature as to whether or not he actually wrote it. But go ahead, let's grant that he wrote
It's
it.
he didn't write it; he spoke it. It was a hadith.
Well, of
A
course.
hadith. Okay.
It was-
So this
it's
is
a-
last
it's a
words.
hadith.
His last
It's
words.
a-
It's
it's
course
a-
he
last
did not
words.
write it.
Very
It was
last
illiterate.
words. Do not be divided amongst
In
yourselves.
fact, the evidence
You're
points
one
to
ummah,
the
one
evidence points to the
community.
fact that it was written and then stuck into the one of the
Well,
interpretations.
he can believe what he wants to believe. If he
But
believes
that's okay.
it, if he wants to believe, that's fine.
We'll grant that, but the point
well, thank you
is
for your permission.
nobody.
no,
believes-
no, no. It's not a permission. That's
No
what you believe.
scholars.
Well, he granted it.
No, I
So
said
that's
no. I said
permission.
granted it like it's not the
Issa.
beliefs are not absolute.
Yes.
That's what I
No
meant.
scholars that we know of, no schools, the four schools of Sunni thought,
Yeah, take that.
hold that in any way, shape, or form.
You have
You're
have no scholars that you've ever had on your show. I'm not even a scholar.
right. So
Clearly.
Okay? You've had no scholars. You've got one of your producers pretending to be Pakistani, which
No,
I don't
we
know if
did
I
that.
should
he's
laugh
not
at that
pretending.
or
Are you faking? Is
Faking
Imam
what?
Abdullah
What could I
faking?
possibly be
I don't know if I
faking?
should laugh at that or
Oh
what.
my word!
Oh,
I am
sorry.
as Muslim as your guest, Tom.
Here's the point. The point is very simple. What we have found, particularly in America, particularly converts, and I want to hear a little bit of how you converted. We've heard converts, particularly since 9/11, the Islamic State, and such theological and academic grounding in the jihad actions of of people in the Islamic State and other places. A lot of Western Muslims are trying to back off of that. Even CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations, came out against the Islamic State. What do you think about the folks, Nihad Awad and Hassan Shibli and these guys at CARE? What is your view of CARE?
Personally, I'm not actually a big fan of CARE. I think that they're a bunch of house Muslims. Not all of them, but the organization itself has no teeth. I think that since the government changed the 501c laws, we have the same problem with the NAACP as and a lot of other human rights organizations. Since basically the government can take away anybody's 501c status for any reason, it's taken away any real protective ability of any of these human rights organizations like CARE or like the NAACP or anyone like this. So, I mean, to be honest with you, I think that it's a waste of energy, particularly when we've divided ourselves between MSA, CARE, ISNA, ICNA. They've divided themselves up. I mean,
They are still one and the
it's a wasted
same.
energy.
You are, look, you're a unique Muslim. You're kind of sort of on an oasis floating around.
Oh, there's a lot like me. There's just not a lot of them out there.
They don't speak out.
That's
brave enough to
understandable.
speak out.
I got a couple of questions for you, and if Imam Abdullah or Mark has any, we'd appreciate just engaging with you.
I would like to ask one quick question.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah. So what you're basing your belief on, if I'm understanding you correct, is the last thing Muhammad said was make peace in a abrogated fashion that overrules all the other things he said. And Islamic doctrine is absolutely 100% in agreement with you on that. Is whatever happened before, if he said something that's contradictory later, that his latest verse abrogated the first verse. And that's, this is not Mark saying this. Many people, many Islamic scholars have said this all over the place. Al-Hazar has said this everywhere. So, if Muhammad actually did come out and say this, that would revolutionize the Muslim world, because now they all have to lay down their arms, truly. Yeah. And I wish, that would happen like that.
Well, Mark, let me tell you this, okay? Throughout, whether it's during after Mecca, because it was not ordained for us to defend ourselves, but it is consistently said throughout the entire Quran that acts of aggression are prohibited. So when you're sitting here doing your Ramadan bombathon, and these idiots that are strapping bombs to themselves, these idiots that are killing innocent people, whether it's Muslim or Christian, Jew, it doesn't matter.
Right.
All right. These are acts of aggression. These are prohibited in Islam. Only acts of self-defense are permissible.
Well, here's the problem.
Well,
here's
because outside of the Third Ottoman Empire, realistically, in the Islamic history of over 1,400 years, the spread of Islam was not done by the sword.
Well,
the Third Ottoman Empire is probably the most problematic one. And it was the last caliphate that the Islamic world has ever seen.
All right, well, I have to disagree with you on that.
And here's the problem. And here's the problem. And going back to that concept of abrogation, most Muslims
abrogation for our audience at 33 minutes after means that a change took place. The Quran said that each man is allowed one wife, but then Muhammad wanted a couple of wives, so there was an abrogation. And Muhammad
you think that Muhammad did all of this for glory and fame? The man died penniless.
Okay.
He didn't have
we're just explaining what he did.
I'm not explaining the concept. We're explaining the concept. Hold on. Time out.
I'm explaining the concept of abrogation.
Hold on.
So hold on.
We're explaining the concept of
abrogation. He made a statement about my prophet. And so I want to clarify something here.
I was talking about abrogation.
Not you. I'm talking about Tom. I know what you're talking about, Mark. I said Tom made a statement about Muhammad that I have to clarify. That I have to defend, okay? And it's not going to be defending by shooting at you like what happened in Garland, Texas. Yeah. It's going to be with words, which is what it's supposed to be.
Yep.
All right?
Agreed.
Now, the defense is, the thing is this, is that if he was a man that was all about worldly things, he was offered when his time in Mecca, before he was allowed to defend himself. He was offered, before there was any physical strength, just on the fact of his word of spreading that women had rights, that orphans had rights, just off of that right there, Meccans offered him all kinds of land, all kinds of wealth, if they would just worship what they worshipped one day a year. And his response to them was, you could put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left hand. I will never worship what you worship, and you will never worship what I worship. So to you be your way, and to me be mine.
And
so he had an opportunity to be wealthy. Even when he was the governor and asked to be the governor of Medina, he had a chance to be wealthy.
But back to my point I was making a minute ago.
We appreciate your defense of your prophet, but that's not the question we asked. Question I was explaining to the audience, because we're throwing around the word abrogation, There's people driving in Florida going, what the heck is abrogation? And I was illustrating it with a real life situation from the Quran, where the original rule was one wife, then Muhammad wanted more than one wives, and the Quran wrote in that a man can have up to 4 wives, and that new writing abrogated or superseded, use the word superseded for abrogated, superseded the original verses so that the reader wouldn't be confused.
You're actually wrong. Nowhere in the Quran does it say that you can only have one wife. You could always, actually, prior to the 4, you could have as many as you want. Prior to the 4, particularly in Arabia, women were nothing but property that to be traded or given away or thrown away at will. They were material.
Today.
Well, here's the point I was trying to make with the point of
Mark's point, and then I got a series of
abrogation,
questions.
because what's happening in the ISIS and in majority of countries in the Middle East and abroad is they look at that last statement, the verse we were talking about earlier, where 551, do not take Jews as your friends, is the last abrogated verse from what most people believe, not you, from what most people believe, that's what they believe. I'm not talking about your beliefs. I'm saying what they believe
Who is most? This is the part
ISIS,
Sunni,
Sunni
legal schools,
the 4 legal schools of Islam,
and all of Shia Islam.
I'm sorry, but I actually happen to follow the oldest one, which is Hanafi, which is the oldest school of doctrine, and nowhere in Hanafi in 21 years that I studied has it ever advocated
abrogation,
that you cannot be friends with anybody other than Muslims. Because we can go into contracts with them, we can go into business with them, we can trade with them. In fact, the Quran even allows us as Muslim men to marry Christians and Jews and Sabians.
Yes, as long as they're subjugated. As long as they're subjugated.
No. It does not say anything about subjugated. There actually are specific rules, such as they have to be pure.
Do they have to pay a jizya?
No, they don't have to.
Do you know Dr. Zuhdi Jasser by any chance?
Oh my God! Please don't mention that, Uncle Tom. But yes, I do know him. Him and I have debated on numerous occasions.
I can't believe you debated. You and him have very, very similar beliefs. Where do you guys disagree?
The fact that Fox News pays him to be the one to quantify idiots like
no, but where do you disagree?
Chowdhury and ISIS and things like that.
Doctrinally, where do you guys disagree doctrinally? Because
actually,
he has a very benign view of Islam. He wants to separate.
I don't have a benign view of Islam. What I have is that we have a minority within Islam, just as every faith has a minority that distort the religion for political and or profiteering. Okay, that's what we have. All right, and that's groups like Al-Qaeda, which was and factually funded and trained by our CIA, by our government, by our tax dollars, and then we have ISIS now. The exact same problem that we have. Every single monster and problem that we have isn't just a creation of some ideology. That
are these guys
Islam? It's also
let's use Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Are they Muslims? Are these guys Muslims or not?
They're not Muslims. How could they be Muslims?
How can this man say that ISIS is not Muslim and a man who does not know if he is Shia or Sunni is a Muslim?
Have you not seen the photos where these idiots are making sujood and they're praying in different directions? You got one praying in this direction, you got another one.
That's a good point. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Broken compass.
In fact, also, let's explain this to me.
I'm thinking
that 90. I have a question for you guys.
I'm thinking you're more Amino, Muslim in name only.
Yeah, Muslim in name only.
I'm thinking more and more of that.
That's funny. Let me ask you guys. Listen, let me ask you guys a question.
Sure.
Explain to me why, statistically speaking, this ISIS that's blazing a trail of fire across Iraq and Syria right now.
We're going to agree here.
98% of the people that are being killed are Muslim. All right? And the fact that they're literally right there in the Golan Heights, right next to Israel, but yet have not attacked Israel not one time.
That's not true.
That's not true. You heard of Hamas?
What's your question? Let's hear his question.
Go ahead.
Wait a minute. They're threatening Hamas. ISIS is now threatening to attack Hamas.
They've
So
also
Hamas
shot
and ISIS are not the
few.
same.
They've shot
Wait a minute.
missiles into the Golan within the last month.
What is the question?
Who has?
Islamic
What is the
State has.
question? We need a question.
That's the question. That was the question. I said explain to me why they have not attacked Israel.
They have.
No, they have not. They're attacking targets of Syria, Bashar Assad.
Well, how about immediate and eternal eradication as soon as they try to attack Israel.
Well,
How
but
about
they
that?
don't care. Remember, it's all about martyrdom. You guys are sitting there teaching your listeners that we as Muslims, we don't care. We're going to fight to the death to kill all you infidels, because Christians and Jews are infidels according to your understanding of what my faith is. So if that's the case, why should they care if they're going to be totally annihilated by my tax dollars that gave Israel the military that they have?
And then go directly to in the grave, then to
according to
paradise.
it, they get 72 virgins, and they get to go directly to heaven, and they get to enjoy that.
I'll tell you
why
what.
would they fear if they're true Muslims? Because I'm just a Mino.
I'll tell you what. And you are a Mino, but that's okay. You're
so
winnable.
Explain to me, answer my question.
I will.
Why is
There are 9
ISIS, who you
editions
believe
so
are
far.
true Muslims?
I'll tell you, 9 editions of Dabik have come out. 9 editions of the online magazine for the Islamic State, and we don't refer to them as we do it for the sake of understanding of the folks, but technically they're Daesh, but the
Daesh.
Islamic State.
That's right.
They have 9 online publications, and they have answered that exactly in their developing progressive 9 publications as to what their methodology is for purifying. Oh, Abdullah, tell us about the internal purification first. Then
How about,
the
how
Jew.
about you, Tom? Answer the question.
Well, first of all,
You're-
let's go
you're-
back
you're-
let's
oh,
go back 1 minute real quick.
Okay.
And give that a read. ISIS affiliate claims responsibility for rockets fired from Sinai into Israel.
We know they're doing that. They're testing, but very, very simple. There needs to be doctrinally within the Khalifa, and Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, Caliph Ibrahim, has laid out, and the doctrine is in these. The doctrine. See, here's where you and I disagree, and we would challenge you to read the doctrine of the Islamic State, rooted in Islamic theology and Islamic history. Tough to argue with, particularly you, who says, I don't know if I'm a Sufi or a Sunni or a Shia or
I
whatever.
didn't say it.
I'm in the middle
I
of
know
the road.
exactly what I am. I'm a Muslim.
Okay. Well, you don't
You
have
wanna
that
label
option.
me? That's fine. I'm a Sunni. You
don't
want to
have-
label me?
Okay,
then
if
that's
you're in
what
the
I would be
Sunni
labeled
world,
as a Sunni.
you're in the Islamic
Much
State
safer.
world. And they said, we have to, step 1, internally purify all Sunni Muslims that don't buy into the jihad
That would be
global caliphate view, which is part of the eschatological view of Dabiq, which is why they named it Dabiq, the northwestern city in Syria, where the end-time battle takes place. If you went to Syria right now, you would be exterminated by them, be purified, because you don't buy into the pure program. By the way,
I was just in Qatar last year.
By
and
the
I was
way,
in, I was
what
in
Muslim
Tunisia,
country-
and I was fine.
if
Well,
you had
No,
to-
if you're to
Lisa,
go to a land controlled by Islamic State, off with your head, my friend.
Yeah,
You
if
are
you
not
had to-
a true
You're
believer.
probably right, just because of the fact I'm white. But
Yeah.
let me tell you this.
Especially
Racist.
and we will have you back on our show if you want to continue this stuff, because I think you add something to the debate.
Yep. No, and
What were you going to say? You wanted to say.
Yeah.
You wanted to say something.
do you want to say something, or no, we want to
No,
cut you off?
I had a thought, but
Hey,
no,
Issa.
yeah.
Issa, if you had to go to one of the 56, you said the other day when I was your guest, 79 countries.
Well,
There's-
we're the majority in 56, but we're in 79 different
Oh,
countries.
yeah.
Oh,
But
okay, yeah.
there's
Yeah.
56
I agree with you there.
Muslim countries, according to the CIA. Which of those countries, what would be number 1 if you had to go and live in a Muslim country? Where would you go live?
Well, I'm in the process of buying my retirement home in Tunisia, which is where my wife is from. It's beautiful there, Northern Africa,
Very
right off the
beautiful.
Mediterranean.
Tunisia?
Very beautiful.
Are
It's
you
very
bringing your
beautiful.
AK with you?
Why do I in Tunisia? Why would I need to bring an AK?
That
to
is not
Tunisia?
necessary. Tunisia, beautiful.
Wasn't there just an attack there the other day?
Oh,
Yeah,
there,
there was
you
an
have
attack
attacks
there.
here in
And
America
did you-
all the
and
time.
Did you hear
Nothing
about
to
what
fear.
the Muslims did there that lived in Tunisia? What did they do? They defended the tourists.
The political
They
structures of
defended the
Tunisia.
non-Muslims.
The
They
political.
defended the non-Muslims. That's not hitting the mainstream media, Tom. But I would be curious to see if you're actually spreading that truth. That when this attack happened by that loon, that there were Muslims there that were throwing things at the attacker, attacking the attacker, surrounding the non-Muslim vacationers there,
Yeah,
and
that's what he's talking
basically taking the bullets for them and dying to defend the non-Muslims.
We will have to continue this. Got a million questions, but I actually have a line
Yeah,
of
here's
questions I want to ask. But
It's
to go to
Tunisia.
Tunisia,
Okay.
I give you a lot of credit. The political structures are falling apart in Tunisia. There's going to be rebellion
is.
there, and
There is.
this is a Muslim country, 99% Muslim, and it's going to be, and it is in disarray. Are there nice Muslims there trying not to follow Islamic doctrine? Of course there are. Of course there are, but we're critiquing the doctrine. How did you get converted? What were you, and what did you convert from?
I was a Baptist Christian. I was a Baptist Christian in college. I took world religion, and I was interested in a lot of religions. Behind me, you'll see a lot of different books. I've got a huge library of religions. I've studied everything from Taoism to Buddhism to Hinduism, Catholicism. Anything that has an ism at the end of it, I studied it. And then got to the chapter of Islam, and I was interested in it. And I read the Quran, and I was interested in and what attracted me was all the scientific proofs in there, the things that there's no way an illiterate man over 1,400 years ago could have known. He talked about the 3 veils of darkness. He talked about the invisible barrier that separates fresh water from salt water, something that science has only proven within the last 10 years. He talked about how mountains are nothing, but there's the roots beneath them that hold the plates together. That's something that science just figured out, 15 years ago. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
Let me
of
ask you
scientific
this.
things.
I understand that. For
that he
the sake of
wrote
our
about.
audience, so
And
that
so
they
when
can...
I read this, you asked the question, I'm answering. So when
Okay.
he wrote about these things, and you have this illiterate man from the middle of the desert that wrote about everything from biology to geography to astronomy, I mean, you name the science. I
He
happen
didn't
to be
write
a science
anything, but
person
we've
myself.
established that, right? He didn't
Okay.
write it down. It was conveyed
Correct.
to him by an angel, and others
Correct.
wrote it down.
Correct.
When you
So
said you were a
the fact that
Baptist
anybody
Christian,
during that time, how about that?
What's that?
Anybody during that time could know the things that is
Okay.
written in there that
point.
scientists to this
good
day.
point. I'll come back to that in a second. When you were a
You
Baptist
asked me a
We gave
Christian,
you
question.
the-
I'm telling you what my answer is. That's what drew my attention to
Okay.
Islam.
Okay.
when you were a Baptist Christian,
Yes.
explain that. What was your belief system as a Baptist Christian, whatever that means?
Well, I mean, I went to Baptist church. I mean, I went to Sunday school. I grew up. It was my aunt that really did it. My mother wasn't too much into the church, but it was my aunt that did that. Took me to church every Sunday. I mean, it was the belief in the Trinity, the belief in Jesus as my Savior, and that the whole Christian doctrine.
Okay, so you were, as an adult or a young kid, you made a
19.
decision to
I
follow
was
Jesus
19.
as your Lord and Savior. You made that decision at some point?
Yeah, when I went to Fellowship of Christian Athletes at 15, actually.
What athletic events were you involved with?
Well, I was a boxer, a football player.
Oh.
I boxed for many years, actually.
So did I.
Did you?
I was a football
Maybe
player.
we could have a meeting in the ring. How about that?
We'll do round 3 face to face.
Yeah, round 3. I was 125 pound in the AAU
I promise
stuff.
not to bring a machete.
Okay, good. But here, this is important for our audience because we have a lot of Christians, Jews, and Muslims that listen and watch. You gave your life to Jesus Christ at one point. Is that accurate in me identifying you that way?
Well, I mean, I was baptized as a child, and then
Okay.
when I was 15 at the Fellowship of
That's
Christian
not my
Athletes,
question.
I went through that.
Did you say, Jesus, you are my Lord and Savior, which is...
Yeah, that's what you
Okay.
say when you're saved, yes.
Okay.
Did you mean it when you said it? Is what
You
he's
mean it
asking
when you
you.
said it.
I don't know. I'm 40 years old. Do you think I really remember what I
All
meant
right,
at
no,
15? I
that's
can
a
tell you
good
what I
point.
do remember. I was more interested in playing sports because
Yeah,
we were in
yeah.
Estes Park, Colorado. I was more interested
was
in
I.
chasing the
What?
girls, I think, at that point.
Estes Park.
What
You
year
guys
was
might be
that?
related.
Colorado.
What
Really?
year was that?
Oh, yeah, seriously, what year is that?
I was 15, so I'm 41 now. so-
25, 26 years ago.
What was the
Yeah.
year?
What was
Help-
the year?
What year?
Tom
is
was right there too. He just
I was in Estes Park at the same time. What year is
1990 about.
Yeah, it would be about 1990. Yeah.
No, I had just left. Where were you in Estes? That's a great little town.
I was in. It was at some cabin. It was the Fellowship of Christian
Oh,
Athletes.
FCA,
Have you not
okay.
ever heard of them?
Yeah, I taught at a Bible school there up in Estes for years.
Was it in the mountains or was it in the city?
In the mountains.
You're probably there.
It may have been the same
Probably
place.
same
It was
place.
called Ravencrest.
I think that was. I think it was.
You know, Ravencrest hosts FCA events.
Yeah, then that we were in the same spot. We just
Oh, that's
did
interesting. Could
Different
have been.
eras. Was it? I think it
Very
might have been
interesting.
1990.
Well, what was also very interesting at 15 minutes after here, Isa, is the information that persuaded you away from Christianity to Islam was the evidence, the factual evidence. Is that accurate in identifying it that way?
Well, yeah, I mean, because at that time, it was at 15, 16 years old, I began to see things that were contradictory within the Bible that I had questions, and sometimes my pastor or preacher or ministers. I went to a lot of different ones, asked a lot of. My aunt was freaking out. She didn't know what to do. She kept, because I had all these questions and nobody could give me answers. Sometimes I just got, well, you just have to have faith. And it wasn't good enough for me at that point. So by the time I was 19, I would consider myself probably somewhere around 17. I became a deist, if you would. I guess that's probably the best way to describe it. I still believed in God. If you asked me, I would have said I was still Christian, but I had some questions about the Bible. I saw some contradictions in there, particularly in the New Testament. They didn't quite add up. And so then when I went to college and I took world religion, I got introduced to, a plethora of other religions. And I know it was like a light switch. I began studying them all. And then I came across Islam and the Quran, and I found it to be perfect.
No contradictions in there.
Well, let me ask you this. This is Tom Trento, your host, Enemies of the State. No enemies on today's show. We had one guy.
Dr. Nazi was clearly an enemy.
He blew a fuse, that guy. But we got Isa Hodge on. Not H-A-J-J, but H-O-D-G-E, Hodge.
Oh.
That's correct.
Yeah. And he's a Muslim in the center of the country somewhere. Hang on, Mark. We're on WSBR Radio. It's the 10th of July, 2015. We're discussing a whole host of things, but in particular, we're discussing Isa's conversion from Christianity, where he was supposedly a born-again Christian, to Islam. And Isa, here's my question.
Words have power. Words have meaning. You know that, right? So when you say supposedly, that means that you basically just doubted what I just said to you.
No, you were supposedly a born-again Christian. I haven't...
You said you didn't know if you really meant it when you said it or not. You said that you weren't sure.
You said you were...
I was 15 years old.
I didn't remember because it was so many years ago.
Okay, well, that's...
Who was definitely a Christian.
Tell me what you did when you were 15 years old. Well, you're probably younger than me.
If you were really a Christian, then
we're
you're
all
really
older
in
than
trouble where I'm going, Isa Hodge. But... If you hold the same, I'm asking you today, do you hold the same criterion to determine if Islam is true by comparing it to the inconsistencies or the challenges that it faces? If someone were to do that, and indicate that it's less secure and less vital and less factual than Christianity, would you continue on your process to finding the truth, or have you closed yourself off to any further truth other than Islam?
Well, I could tell you this, is that you wouldn't be the first one in a long line of, 21 years I've been studying this,
right.
This religion. You wouldn't be the first one that has put that Pepsi challenge to me. So by all means, go ahead and join the long list of other people who have failed to do that.
But my question is, are you still open to be persuaded by the evidence?
You can join the long list of other people that have said and done the same thing.
But this is a trick question, Isa, and I like you, but it's a trick question. Be real careful how you answer. Allah's watching. Are you still
Allah is always watching.
Are you still open to conclude that Islam is false and to change your mind?
Well, at this point, I wouldn't go at it like that, but I am always looking for the truth. Islam is not false. Islam is the truth. Islam is the way.
Okay, but let's. You're an intelligent guy. You're a healer by nature. Let me play with this a little bit. You're hesitating. I will tell you, I am persuaded to this date to be a Christian, but I am open for new evidence to persuade me differently to move somewhere else. Can you say the same about Islam?
I can say that if you can produce evidence, because that's what it is. God gave every one of us intelligence. He didn't just give us emotions, He gave us intelligence. So if you can produce evidence to show that Islam is wrong, then how could I reject truth?
Okay. That's very good.
I told you he was not a real Muslim.
I commend you, but you are not a real Muslim.
Listen,
because Allah has said you cannot doubt this, and so has Muhammad, and we can show you that. So you're in defiance to your two top guys up there. Let me tell you.
Actually, you're wrong.
Okay.
Because I was just getting ready to tell you that there is actually a Pepsi challenge in there, that if you think that you can produce one ayat like it, if you can prove it wrong, you see, you paint Islam as you can't question Islam.
Correct.
But you can. No, you can question. You can question it because how do you think that you get your intellect to believe in it? Because it isn't
by the
just
sword.
based off of emotion. See, this is where a lot of people who are not Muslim, and even some Muslims, make the mistake. It is not just an emotional decision to believe in Islam. It has to be an intellectual one.
There is no decision.
I have looked
intellectually make the decision to believe in Islam. You have to have facts. In order to have facts, empirical facts, you have to challenge it.
Let me offer this suggestion for you, because I've looked into this doctrine of whether or not Muslims can rethink and critique Islam. I've looked into it extensively through Islamic doctrine. And what it says is, what the scholars say, the Sunni side now we're talking about, you absolutely can question Islam. You can question how it works, not whether it's true. So the questioning, and it makes sense. If you question whether it's true, you're doubting the perfect continuation of the handing to Gabriel through Muhammad to you of the sacred texts. You can't possibly question whether or not that's true without calling Allah's perfectness into consideration. So what Islam allows is for you to question how it works, not whether it's true. That's an eternal decision that has tremendous ramifications.
And the Bible and Christianity doesn't teach that, right?
Don't throw dust up when you're squealing and slipping and sliding.
Here's the thing.
All right.
One of the differences between
you're
your
okay,
show and my
Issa.
show is
I'm going to
that,
let these guys
number one,
talk
I'm more
to you.
political than I am religious on my show.
I'm going to let these guys talk to you a little bit.
I actually go by both sides. I look at both sides of the coin. You guys just shine one side and say, "Oh, look at this pretty quarter."
Well,
"Oh, look at this over here," without actually taking the whole. Because see, when you are so quick to discourse, to just throw away like that, is the fact that I, as a Muslim, believe that God sent the Torah. I, as a Muslim, believe that God sent the New Testament, because it's called the Torah and the Injil, and then God sent the Quran. So I, as a Muslim, part of my 7 articles of faith is the belief in the Old Testament and the belief in the New Testament, as well as the belief in all the prophets that came before, from Adam to Moses to Abraham, Isaac, Solomon, you name it, go on and on and on. I believe in all the prophets there.
Hey, I got a quick question for you. Since I'm in the middle, I'm going to burn in hell from both you guys. So I can ask you.
Mark's a Unitarian. We have a Jew, a Christian, and a Unitarian here right now.
So let me ask this question.
That sounds like a joke. What happens if a Jew
and a Muslim on the show.
And a Muslim get on the radio
owned
show.
by a Unitarian? There you go.
There was recently a study that came out that portrayed Muslims and around the country either they tend to follow more the more conservative branch that believes that Sharia should be implemented over the Constitution, and it was a very large percentage, which is quite alarming.
50%, something like a crazy number.
And from your experience, what have you found out personally from going out and seeing around the country as far as in the United States? What's your take on that? Do you think that people are becoming more and more radicalized over time since ISIS came out?
And you got 30 seconds to answer this, because we're out of time.
No, I don't believe so. I mean, I've traveled all over the country here in America, and I am not actually seeing radicalization. I'm actually seeing fear. Muslims are actually becoming
fearful?
Yeah, very fearful.
Okay.
Why are they fearful? What are they fearful
I got to wind
of?
it down, but
people like you guys.
If you're willing, we'll have you back on the show.
Because of Tom's reputation for inciting violence towards Muslims?
No. For Tom and your guys' reputation of skewing the truth about Islam, and your listeners who can you can get a few that are very impressionable to cause harm to Muslims. I mean, because there's a rise of violence against Muslims in America.
We do have to cut it off.
There's a rise of violence
we're on a hard
against
break.
Muslims in America.
Hey, we're on a hard break.
We have gone on the record many, many times saying we love human beings who happen to be Muslims. We don't like the system, the political system of Islam. That's what we critique. But we'll continue our conversation. If your friend wants to come back on, he's welcome to come back on. He's got to follow the rules of the radio. He can call us names all he wants. It just indicates the weakness of his thinking capability. But thank you.
I would like to apologize on
No,
behalf
don't worry
of
about
him
it.
as,
Don't worry
as
about
a
it.
fellow
Don't- you
Muslim.
don't-
I mean,
there's no
I
apologies to
myself
us.
do not.
Thank you
Do
very
not
much.
Thank you.
We look forward to talking more about this. And, watch out. Jesus is coming after you, man. Take care, everybody. We'll see you.
all right.
Have a safe weekend.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Assalamu alaikum.
Have a good evening.
All right. Thank you.